Am I supposed to follow that? Suggestion for next time, if you bring them again, that counts as a package, special music and a message. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, peace and love. As always, I begin by asking permission from divine oneness, from union, to grace me with the ability to speak and to grace everyone with the ability to listen and benefit. Not from me, but from oneness. And for us, for me specifically, for my faith, I ask permission from the Muhammadan reality, the reality of the Prophet Muhammad, and from my Sufi guides, Maulana Sheikh Nazim al-Haqqani, and our living guide, Maulana Sheikh Hisham Qabbani. What I wanted to do today is to talk a little about my new book that I just published a week ago. Thank you. This would be my fourth book so far, and it's called Art and Memoirs, Setting Forth. And this is actually the first book that is written in both Arabic and English. It has a series of about 48 reflections, and then on the left side is the Arabic, and then on the right side is the English, and I have copies outside to sell afterwards. But these reflections I wrote last year after dawn. I would wake up in the morning and I would do my dawn prayer and I would just sit and listen to whatever comes. And I'm going to read two of them. And I want to begin by reading one to sort of begin the sermon for today, the service, and then end with another one. So this one is called From Artist to Art. From Artist to Art. The painter, musician, actor, or poet begin their journey in a specific form, but must eventually transcend the bounds of their physical craft to arrive at the shore of all art. This does not mean that the artist embraces all these art forms outwardly, but rather embodies inwardly the well of creativity from which all these oceans flow. Such an artist may even escape the prison of embodiment and become a symphony of art itself, playing in the ether of timelessness. When you encounter such a creative apparition, their every mannerism takes you back to an epoch immemorial. You hear and see artwork in their very stillness. So, what I actually want to talk about, instead of just focusing on this reflection, is how sort of this book comes about and my journey in writing in general and my journey in creativity. When I usually talk about art, I don't mean by it the physical craft as much as the state of being, right? So as many people here, I grew up in a religious community that I still adhere to as a faith, but as a community I felt like an outsider. Because we're too eclectic, we're too strange. I've previously described it as being this place like a mental hospital. It's true. But when I journeyed through my life, I journeyed through various groups in the Muslim faith, and I never felt in place. And this journey of this book sort of materialized when I met my Sufi guide, Sheikh Hisham. And what essentially happened when meeting Sheikh Hisham is that he made me look at my past, everything I had done before. And whereas some religious folk would like us to reject who we were, or would like us to look at certain aspects of our past as sinful, or as should be rejected and forgotten, you need to move on. That stuff you used to do in the past, God doesn't like that. And then Sheikh Hisham made me face myself and be like, you need to go back and see God in all of those things. Because had it not been for all of those things that you experienced before, you would not be here now. So he made me look at it not like a set of rules. He essentially made me understand that God does not want us to look at our journey towards Him, and by God I mean oneness, I mean whatever this higher truth you adhere to. It doesn't want us to approach it in the sense of rules, do's and don'ts, but to approach it as an appreciation of a painting, as an appreciation of a symphony. What does it bring within you? What memories does it ignite within you? So just as a painter cannot truly be a painter unless he's also able to enjoy a good piece of music and a good sculpture and good poetry, and to actually look at it as a mirror to improve their own craft, to improve their own creative process. Similarly, for me, I had to look back at my childhood and things that I experienced, things that I used to do. For example, for much of my childhood, I never prayed. But that doesn't mean I wasn't spiritual. That doesn't mean that I wasn't sensitive. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I have to sort of come to grasps with is that I grew up in what might be called a secular family. A family that was nominally Muslim, and they prayed, but, they enjoyed music. My mother was a painter. She is still a painter. My father is a photographer. My sister is a pottery maker. My brother is an architect. So it's an artistic family, right? So if you try to come to them and tell them that music is not allowed or God doesn't like music, good luck with that. They're going to play music. They're going to read poetry, and they're nationalists too. So they grew up in the Middle East in a very nationalist time period. And when I came to America, I actually sort of was born again as a Muslim in America. But the Muslims I mingled with tried to undo my entire childhood. They tried to kill it. They tried to say, that love poetry that you used to listen to or that your family likes, and all these TV shows, and all of these, Arab poets that don't have beards, and they're not wearing the Islamic clothing, these people are all going to hell. And I'm thinking to myself, buddy, this is hell. Ironically, Hafiz, the poet Hafiz has an incredible verses. He says, what is the point of all your worship if you go around breaking hearts? Really, what is the point of all your worship? And I used to hear things like, we used to have these people, they'd go around and just yell at young people, yell at children, you don't deserve to be in the mosque, get out of here. And then I would go talk to the imam, I'm like, this guy is turning people away. He's like, that's okay, but he's a pious person. I'm like, okay, I don't know what kind of piety that is. And then there is the motif of oceans, which I love the song, the meditation, right? The ocean refuses no rivers. In order to sort of get close to what oneness is all about, you sort of have to be oneness. But if you can't accept your own oneness, the oneness within you, the oneness you've experienced in your childhood, of all the things you used to do, then you can't experience and you can't accept the oneness that others are trying to reflect back to you. And then you certainly can't accept absolute oneness. But then the trick is, the beautiful secret is that once you experience the oneness within you of who you are, you've really experienced all of it. There is really nothing else except who you are, what you're experiencing within, and what you are going through, and to try and make sense of all of that with awareness with happiness, with joy. Our guide, Maulana Sheikh Hisham, he tells a story that when he began accompanying his Sufi guide in Damascus, Sheikh Abdullah Daghestani, and he reached 35 years old, he had a mystical vision where he fainted, and in 1 minute of our world, he relived his entire 35 years in real time. And then he woke up, and he said, for 2 weeks I was delirious. I was speaking words that nobody could understand. And in reality, as soon as I met Sheikh Hisham, he put me in that process, but much more gently, through the process of writing, through the process of art, right? And then what I would like to read to you next is the second reflection. This one is called The Desire of the Artist. The Desire of the Artist. The artist seeks not an entity. That is not what they crave. They beseech a relationship and movement. In contrast to other gazes, the artists are fixed on love itself. Love is the artist's beloved, just as water itself is the ocean which they traverse to great depths. They break the barrier of reason as they witness eternity in a drop. Wherever boundaries die, you can find there an artist's resurrection. They thrive on connections that channel mockery from the deceased. Those who cannot see, and see here is S-E-A, not S-E-E. And the deceased are the deceased in heart. You know, one of the amazing things I would always remember is people who do not proclaim a religious faith, but they espouse such depth of perception than some of the religious scholars in my faith. And it always puzzled me. And I began to wonder, what if all this religious knowledge about God has actually veiled us from God? Right? And I began looking at the Quran, and I said, well, you know, if I read the Quran as a book of law and rules, I don't think I'm getting the gist of it. Maybe I should read it as poetry or a painting. If I do that, and I would ask young people, young Muslims, I'm like, what if, how do you appreciate a painting? They say, well, I feel it in my heart. Okay, so why don't you read scripture like that? Why don't you approach God like that? And the natural response is, we've never thought about it. I was like, well, don't think, feel. Feel your way to God as an artist, as a piece of art, as a work of art. And most importantly, your faith as a work of art. So this is the book, and actually the cover of the book is my mom's painting, which ironically is called Relationship. And I just want to say a word about the fact that this book combines Arabic and English. And I will read here the back of the book where I say that for those who comprehend both registers, the twin renditions will always act as a serendipitous mirrors of art's memoirs. For those who know only one of these languages, let the other act as a statue of exotic calligraphy, performing the intended meaning from a distance. This is also my selling point for people who don't understand Arabic. You can still buy the book. Thank you so much. I think that Earth's healing will begin by recognizing the earth of the human body and healing our own calamities against our own environment, against our spiritual environment. Because an old traditional mystical principle in all the world traditions is that we are a microcosm. We are a small universe. And if we are able to witness the paintings and the music and the poetry that is being painted and played and composed within us, through us, then we will be able to appreciate nature as a work of art. We'll be able to listen to nature better. So I thank you once again for allowing me to speak to you, and I hope you found benefit in what I said. Thank you so much. Oh, questions?